Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bikinis After Babies. Thank you so much for joining us today. As always, I am one of your hosts, Mandy Rashawn, here with your other host, IFBB Bikini Pro, Jillian Hughes.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're so happy that you're here. We've missed you guys. Doing
Hmm.
these less frequently this year has been a little bit of an adjustment, but Mandy and I are just, you know, going through life
Yeah.
and, things have gotten really busy. And so yeah,
Yeah.
so we wanted to focus on quality. And so anyways, bi-weekly we will be for a little while anyways. So,
Yes.
but there's a lot going on when we don't catch up weekly. So Mandy, why don't you share what's new in Mandyland?
Mandyland.
I love that, by the way.
I know. Before we bought this farm, I was like, this is going to be Mandyland, like Candyland. But no,
Mhm.
everything over here has been really good. Really just kind of getting back in a routine now that we've adjusted to living out here. It took like a good few weeks. The construction is always going on though. Like our offices are still getting worked on. I have the goat pen that's getting worked on, but kind of like any construction project, we go to do one thing and we find there's a problem. Like we go to put like new walls up or something and there's termite damage or there's a leak or there's like so every project is taking a little bit longer, but that is okay. But as far as like my fitness and health, everything has been super good. I have two gyms I go to, one that cuts off my time and one that's a little further that has really good equipment, so I really love that I can like go back and forth to two places. But my nutrition has been really good. I've just been really focusing on feeling my body. Eventually of course, look forward to getting pregnant, which I do want to talk about that for a second because I've had a few people reach out to me about like what's been going on with that.
Mhm.
So being back in a routine and being able to focus on like what makes me happy, of course, like cooking my food, having my food ready, eating in a really good, healthy, caloric area, not too much, not too little, has been really good. So as far as my fertility, though, a few of you have asked, which I always appreciate, like whether it's in person or I've gotten messages because I've been kind of quiet about it, but not on purpose. Really, there's just nothing going on. So, most of you guys know I had surgery in February. Well, the surgery was great, but what happened was it blended a little bit with when my cycle was. So, really, all of February and into March, like I didn't know what cycle I was on. I was really just waiting to start my cycle because I didn't know the days or anything. So everything's kind of just been at a standstill till like I started my cycle. I know what day I'm on. I'm back on medication. So my husband has to do some labs and tests. A few things kind of came up that was a concern. So I have to see like my GI doctor for my spleen. And I do have a platelet issue that they just are kind of concerned about before, doing IVF. So I just have to go to a few more doctors, get more checkups, things like that before we just keep continuing. So that's really
Yeah, it's a
feeding baby
long
goats.
process. Like there's a lot that, people maybe don't realize or, you know.
Yeah, like I've actually had a good friend come up to me and be like, "I'm surprised you're not pregnant yet," And I'm like,
Oh my God. I feel like
it's
that's the last thing you should say to
it's
somebody.
I think I'm just so used to it because I feel like okay, for you guys that don't know, like this has been a journey for so long and I've been so quiet about it, but before that, like and I would talk to people and I started personally noticing problems. I'm talking about like when it was like a year in, right? And
Yeah.
I noticed I wasn't pregnant after trying for like a year and people like you just get hammered with all of it. Like just relax, just go get drunk, just go all that
I
shit,
know.
all of it. That like
Thanks.
I feel like my skin has gotten so tough with it
Hmm.
that like now it's just it kind of just rolls off a little bit. So like she said that just being surprised because she can get pregnant really easily and so can a lot of people around her. So for like me, I just kind of laugh and I'm like, yeah, it just isn't happening yet. So like it just it's is what it is. So I will say I this is kind of different. I've become a little bit more fearful of IVF just because of my platelet disorder. I've always had it, but the the having to get the egg retrieval is causing my OBG to be really kind of worried just because I have very low platelets and I've always had low platelets and it's just how it is. And sometimes they get really, really low to where they question if I have to do a transfusion, but like I'm usually
Hmm.
fine. And then now with my spleen being a lot larger than what it was a long time ago, they're worried about taking growth hormones and like having problems.
Oh I
So,
see.
but we're still like I'm still very happy and I'm still like doing all the stuff that I've wanted to do and my goals and growing my life and everything. So I just got to take it like day at a time.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
exactly.
but what about you? Since we're doing these biweekly check-ins,
Hmm.
these biweekly episodes, which we both love doing because, like you said, it gives us more quality. We're also focusing on our clients. We're focusing on like any
Right.
messages you guys send us. It gives us a lot of time to be able to be like, what can you guys find value in, and that what we can give you. So that's also a great perk about doing this biweekly instead of weekly. But now it's your turn. How has your, prep been?
Well, it's going good. We're like 10 and a half weeks out now from the first show of the season for me. But like you said, we've got so many clients that are prepping, and I do a
Hmm.
lot of posing coaching as well. So like that's kind of why like when we were doing weekly episodes, like it was tough to keep up on because I felt like we were just like get one edited, put one out, then we're planning for the next one, recording the next one, then putting that one out. It was just a really tough schedule to stay on top of with everything else with my kids' sports and cheers in full swing. We're like in the last month and then going into tryout season, which is really busy. Like it'll slow down
Hmm.
once like the team selection's done at the end of May, and then like the summer is really easiest for cheer. And that's kind of why I choose to compete during that time. But like I'm also like prepping during the busiest time. But it's been going really good. I've gotten a lot of like really like positive feedback from my coaches and well, I say it like my coaches, like James and Victoria. I just posed with her today, and I've been working on my posing a lot. Like I've been posing with people so much that like I didn't feel like I had to dust off the heels and work on posing because I just kept posing all through the winter with all of our clients. So that has really benefited me. We've got my pro routine put together because it is a little bit longer
Hmm.
than like an NPC routine, and showmanship is so important. Like you have to have it really all together. Like you do anyways when you're competing at a really high level, but like on the pro stage, I mean, like these girls are, they've done a lot of other pro shows and they have, the best of the best, right? So a lot of like thought and consideration going into like the whole look and whatnot, and then just, training and food is like in an okay place like for now. But I know that that's not going to last because I feel like I've been like visually changing, but the scale has been a little bit stuck. But some things have been a little bit off, like my sleep, I just can't seem to figure out. And I don't know. I think it does have a lot to do just with like perimenopause and like all of
Hmm.
that as well. Something that's been a little bit wonky. And I don't know that I paid as much attention to it last year, but this year I definitely am. And so my sleep has been a little bit off. But no, everything is good. I'm really excited. And I've got like three shows planned. Well, I think four. It's just that the gap between like show three and show four is like long. It's like 6 weeks. So I'm kind of like, is that a good call? We just have to really see how my
Yeah.
body does and what the feedback is. I mean, certainly if I get on stage a couple of times and they're like, you need to do da, 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 or you need to go and grow, or you need to do this, then I don't really see the point in just continuing to show up and look the same, so that
Yeah.
might actually end up being okay. We don't do that middle show and then we take that time and do the later one. So I know there's like just it's more of an open schedule than it really
Yeah.
was when I was, trying to turn pro. So I'm just excited. I'm gonna order my suits. I feel like I've been talking about ordering my suits for weeks because it's been really, really hard to make the right decision.
I was about to ask, I don't think you and I have talked about that. So
Hmm.
is your suit color gonna change? Are you
Hmm.
not sure? Do you want to
Yep.
not share?
I'm changing. Yeah, I'm changing it for sure. I loved my suit last year. It
I
was
did
very
too.
special. But my one problem with it was like in every light, it was a completely
Yeah.
different color. And some of it is like, the way Gilco produces videos. And I had a video from each show and I was just like, this looks like a really different suit. But I don't want that. I want the suit to have a cohesive color. There's a reason why I want the color that I want, right? Because it
Hmm.
pops and it looks a certain way. And so I loved that suit and it fits beautifully. And it's not that it's going to not be one I'll ever wear again, but I am looking at some, two new colors. So I
Hmm.
just sent them off to James for approval to see what he thinks. And then we'll get those ordered. And then there'll be two new suits in the rotation this year. So I'm really, really excited. And yeah, I think they're going to be really special. And so yeah, I'm just like getting excited about it. I think like probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, like I was really in my head and just
Mm,
kind of like the drive has been a little bit different, I think, because last year knowing like what I had to bring and who I was up against and like what the criteria was for like being in the 40A class, right? And now I'm like
yeah.
in a sea of all different heights, right? So kind of just not really
Yeah,
knowing.
no, and you're so cute. You're so short. I always think,
You know
like,
what? But I look bigger on stage than I
that's
am in
true.
person. Like, I think about that all the time. Like, even my husband said to me the other day, he's like, damn, the thigh gap is kicking. And I'm like, look at me in a bikini. My legs are huge. Like, I like in person look really itty bitty, but up on stage, I don't. So then I'm like, what am I going to look like when I'm standing with girls that are 5'4", 5'6", 5'8", right? Like, maybe I won't look as small as I think. I don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah.
So,
I'm
um,
excited for you. It will be so great to see.
yeah, I'm really
So great to
excited. I just
watch.
want to go out there and just like rock it and like have so much swagger and confidence. Of that part, that will actually be really hard for me because I don't really feel sexy on stage. I really don't.
Do
I
you, did
just
you, okay, I have a question for you. So, your shows last year, did you feel sexy on stage? Or is it just,
no, not
but
one
what, okay,
time.
but when you look at your videos, you don't look like you don't. Do you know what I mean? Like, if
Yeah, I
you look
think I
at your
can fake
videos,
it.
you're,
Yeah.
and like, the proof is in the videos. It's not that you think you look good faking it, but like, if you look at your videos, you look like sassy. You look like look like sexy. Like that's what you think, you know? So I'm surprised that you don't at least like feel super sexy on
I
stage.
just think I can take that and just like turn it up a little bit,
Hmm.
like I think I was very confident Masters Nationals. I felt amazing that day, but I don't know if I would say sexy. Like, I don't know. I've just always feel like I'm like just like this sporty little chick and maybe
Yeah.
cute, but like I don't know. So I don't want to look like I'm like pouring on the sex while I'm on stage. Like I don't think that's a good look for me. But
Yeah.
like I want to like just have like a little bit more personality up there. So because I think that like, on the pro stage everything's just like a little bit more amplified. I
Hmm.
just don't want to look like, oh well, it's her first season as a pro, so yeah, just I think which is going to take lots of like visualization and which is kind of ties into what we're going to be talking about today,
Yeah.
but just like I think it really is the mental side of things because I've heard people say this before about like the day they turned pro or the day they won a huge title, like they felt it, they knew it, they exuded confidence, they had all of that. And I think that takes like a strong mindset, and you really can't show up like that if you feel like a piece of poo. Like if you don't feel
Yeah.
good and you're in your head and you're having a mentee be like, you just cannot get out there and be like look like a champion. So I think, it kind of ties into today's episode, like dealing with some of the mental aspects of prep and a fitness journey.
Yeah. I know you and I both have experienced that throughout our whole journey, like over the 10 years we've been doing this, whether it's on stage in the gym, like gaining weight, losing weight, getting in our heads and kind of struggling with that. But especially now as coaches, like obviously you've been coaching for so much longer than I have, but as it being like a prime focus of my goals this year, like I notice it a lot with my clients because we have a bulk of mine, I'm trying to think, majority of my clients are new athletes. And just to think about like their mental struggle of like when it comes to like we talked about before, like when it comes to like anxiety, the stress,
Hmm.
the nerves, and it depends like the level, but buckling under that and just like either eating, emotional eating, or questioning the worthiness, questioning if they're good enough to do it. And
Yeah.
I know, like I said, we've been there. And so I can easily share like I had so many moments, but I will say, like, the craziest pressure I think I've ever experienced was coming into it's weird, but it was coming into an improvement season. And it's because I was under so much pressure of like to grow. And I had a coach that was like pushing me so hard to be uh, basically in a prep in an improvement season. I had a coach, the coach was pushing me to do that. It was pushing me to take, I will say like PEDs. He was pushing me to just anytime I stepped out of line, I was getting like reprimanded, even though that's not was like the teachings. It was very hard. I was under a lot of pressure. And man, every day I felt anxious. I was scared of
Oh
food.
man.
I was like thinking I was not good enough when I was working out. Like I could lift harder, but I was so sore. Like, and I was like, I was taking, it wasn't PEDs, but I was taking like stuff for my thyroid because like my thyroid activity was low. My thyroid activity was low looking back on it because I had just got done competing. So like
Yeah.
I had a low active thyroid. And so I was on thyroid medication and again, like we were constantly talking back and forth about PEDs and like I was trying to research that and like my comfortability level was all over the place because this was so foreign. This was, so long ago. But anyways, just it kept going every day, every day. And in my head and all my research, I'm like, this is an improvement season. Like I should enjoy some extra food. I should enjoy time with my family. I should enjoy these things while I'm still like working out and like prepping my food. But like it's okay to gain weight. It's okay. And we were just like, it was so bad. It was so bad. And I was crying every day. And I just I would give in and like never want to check in. It was just a hot mess. I was so depressed. I was so stressed. It was terrible. And I will tell you, I just literally had to like cold turkey stop everything. I like had to stop working with my coach. I had to switch coaches. I had to stop the medication I was taking. The coach I switched to immediately changed my food plan
Yeah.
and revamped it to have way more food, changed my workout plan, completely different approach, and I was able to ease into like an improvement season and like take time off. But man, when I tell you my level of not feeling good enough, like I will never be good enough to step on stage after I had just competed. And in one of my shows, I won an open class and I still
Yeah.
was like, I'm a piece of shit and I'm in an
That
improvement season.
sucks. Like, and
It was
that
horrible.
I'm sure the angle of the coach was, well, this will motivate you, like to just do better, to bring it, to do this. But I think having come out of a prep and then going right into that and not having any balance and then just feeling like it was never good enough, like that
Mhm.
almost like takes the motivation in the opposite
It
direction.
was so hard because it was like, okay, have a flex meal. And I would have a flex meal and I would gain a little bit of weight from that flex meal because we all know that's what's going to
Yes,
happen
that's how it
because I just
works.
got done prepping. And I would get like reprimanded for it. And then I'm like, it would psychologically mess with me because I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Then I shouldn't have a flex meal, but then I should have a flex meal, but I can't raise my calories. It was horrible. And then the question when it came to medication was so stressful. And I come to find out that I just never needed thyroid medication. I just needed a healthy diet and I use iodine supplements and it like
And you
I have a
probably
very
just
high,
needed to reverse out of that.
yeah, that
And you know
too.
what? Reversing takes a different amount of time for everybody. Like you might have just needed a little bit more time in that reverse before
Yeah.
pushing again. That's such a bummer. And you know what's
Hmm.
great is that you're here and you're still in love with the sport.
Oh
But like
yeah.
how many people do we know that are just like, screw this, and they
I took a
never
lot of
compete again?
yeah, I had to take like a good amount of time off and like
Mhm.
be done for a while and it was hard because it I never not loved the sport. Like that's what's the craziest thing about
Yeah.
everything in my life for the 10 years I've been around is that even though I may not be competing and I'm focusing on something else or I have something else that has to take priority of stepping on stage, I love it. I love following it, watching it. I love seeing it. I love just learning, being a part of the community. It took me a long time to come like full circle back around to being like okay, I'm ready to compete again. Okay, did I build enough? And let's see what it looks like. And also, this is why I'll always be a big advocate for longer preps because
Yes, same.
it, yeah, you shouldn't pick a show. Anybody will do what they want. But in my thoughts, you shouldn't pick a show. You should do the work and see how you progress. And then as you keep progressing, have like maybe a season or like a month in mind. Like I might do a show like May, June,
Mhm.
August, September, and like shoot for that. Not like I have to be ready at this exact time, at this exact moment, and do this exact thing. Because I mean, we're moms. That's just it's so much
And like
pressure.
the science of bodybuilding is like very complicated. Like I think sometimes people are like, well, if you lose 1 to 2 pounds a week, then if I have 20 pounds to lose, it should take me 10 weeks. It's like sometimes it doesn't like really follow that course.
Yeah.
And also like bodybuilding is not weight loss. It's like different, right? So I don't think
Hmm.
that that's like the best. I think like honestly giving yourself like 16 to 20 weeks, and that's not saying that you will be cutting that entire time, but I think that will help you like feel prepared because yeah, you probably could pull it off in 8 weeks, but like how healthy, full, muscular, and bubbly, and
Hmm.
radiant are you going to be on stage if you just like totally crammed a prep into like 8 weeks to get on? I just don't think it's the same look. It's like I feel like it's
Yeah.
like cramming for the exam. But to kind of piggyback off of that, like I've talked to people on discovery calls and we take new clients that have had like a nightmare prep in the past. And it sometimes like I feel like it leaves a bit of a scar. And they are like they can always think back to like how they felt and how miserable they were and how terrible it was. And sometimes then it makes them nervous about like prepping, even though we're like our approach is totally different. And even like I mean, we all prepped terribly like 15 years ago. Like,
Yeah.
we didn't care about metabolisms and we did all the things. Like, trust me, there was not all this science and no people weren't coming forward about like, post-show blues and stuff like they do now.
Yeah.
So like back in the day, like, it was very, so you talk to people and they're just like, yeah, but I don't want to be like that. And they have like family members that are like, remember that time you did that bodybuilding show and you were like, nearly passing out and you didn't want to be around anybody and you were crying all the time. And so I think like sometimes it's hard for somebody to like come back into it and be excited and positive about it, even though we can say like, well, the approach is different and we're going to do it this way. So I think sometimes that scar remains. Like, so how was that for
Yeah.
you, like thinking about coming back into it, but like not like wanting to put that immense pressure on yourself that kind of was like a negative cast?
Well, the prep I wasn't worried about because I will say I do well thriving in a prep. It's the aftermath. Like I struggle or I have struggled and that's what hit me was like the aftermath
Yeah.
because we never know what the judge's feedback is going to be because in my world I'm like, okay, do I even need to take time off? Can I just keep going for the rest of the year? But I had a huge fear when I was done competing and then I would go back into improvement season. Like it was so like, what am I going to do? Like, how am
Mhm.
I going to do this? So it was very scary for me, but I will tell you, switching a coach like completely changed it for me. Because
Yeah.
it wasn't me, it wasn't the process, it wasn't my progress, wasn't the prep. It really was just the coaching, uh, deceivingness, I almost will say, that I thought I was going to get in an improvement season
Hmm.
that was not what was communicated to like in the start of it.
Yeah.
So, I also think educating myself. So, taking that time off, again, I always kept following the sport. Like, when we continue to like put ourselves in it, let's learn about the posing. Let's learn how other people are doing it. Let's go to a workshop. Let's see, let's watch this or let's listen to this judge on YouTube or this judge's feedback. I think like when you kind of start learning more and more and more, you're like, there isn't one size fits all. Some
Mhm.
people gain X amount of weight, some people don't. Some people eat more calories in prep, some people don't. Everybody's so different that you just kind of
Mhm.
find out what works for you. And I feel like that helped me a lot too, because it wasn't just like, oh, I can only gain X amount of weight, otherwise I'm an epic failure. It was like, no, I can figure this out and my body will respond properly. Because then if you look at, from when I first competed to now, how much I've grown, I'm like, okay, like this is working. It's just working on my time frame.
Yeah. Yeah, I think removing that deadline too, I think is important and everybody needs like a different amount of time in between
Hmm.
shows. And also like just because you always were able to have 4 months off and then jump back in doesn't mean that will like always be the case because we change and our bodies
Yeah.
change. And so like you just really listening to yourself. I mean, there's been times I've talked about this before, like where like my heart wasn't in it and I was prepping and it wasn't the right reasons. And I know I can't move forward in a prep and do the things that need to be done and make the sacrifices if the passion isn't there. And so that's happened to me before too, just in certain points of life. I don't really know where I'm going with this, but
Oh, the
ooh,
prep brain. Yeah, the
squirrel.
prep brain.
It happens all the time.
So,
Um,
no, one of
but
my clients that happened to her in our check-in, it was so cute. She's getting ready to compete in 3 weeks. And she's like, I think I got an A on my nutrition, but I measured this. It was like this long spiel about how she like mismeasured the grams of her like sweet potato. And she's like, I really think this is the thing that you're talking about of like my brain fog. I'm like, yeah, that's prep brain because you're stepping on stage. So it just reminded me of that.
oh,
I'm like, you're
it's
fine though.
terrible. It's terrible
You're
because prep brain combined with like perimenopause, it's like a real deadly combo. Like the other day, I woke up and I had a little bit of a headache, and I thought about taking Tylenol, and then I was like, no, I'm not going to take any Tylenol. Then finally, after like sitting for 15 minutes, I'm going to take some Tylenol.
yeah.
But I opened the cupboard and I started like kind of portioning out my vitamins, whatever. And then I like grabbed my tea and I went to sit down. I'm like, did I take the Tylenol? Like I couldn't remember if I took it or not, but like I literally couldn't remember. So I'm like, well, I don't want to take it again if I already took it. So I'm just going to sit here and see if my headache goes away. It was the craziest thing. And I'm just sitting there. My husband's like, what's wrong? I'm like, don't even worry. There's a whole scenario going on in
Yeah.
my head, you know? So, but I think like kind of circling back to like things we can experience in prep. And like one thing I really wanted to like talk about in this particular episode was like some of like the ways that our mental health can be impacted in prep, like kind of based on just what's going on, like the science, like
Hmm.
I thought about this the other day because I've had some like days of like almost like just a depressed mood and like just not feeling like myself. And thanks to my lovely little aura ring, I
Oh, I
know
got one of
now.
those now.
Yeah, it tells you so much, but I've been doing a little more cycle tracking because I have an IUD, so I don't always know like if I'm having a period or not. But I definitely, now that I'm following and tracking everything, there are like key points in my cycle when it's just like, hey, it's just one of those days. And but I
Yeah.
used to sort of like read into it too much and be like, oh no, like am I starting to have like some issues? Like is this going on? But it was totally related to just like changes in my cycle. But I think that it's important to like to expect and to talk about like how just when your body is changing and you're feeling worn down from the rigors of prep, that those things can affect your sleep. They can affect your mood. They can cause you to have some anxiety that maybe you've never dealt with before. So I just wanted to kind of open that up and talk about
Yeah.
that a little bit because maybe that is surprising for people to be like, wow, I like decided to do a show and I'm finally going after this goal and I'm like drinking the water and like lifting weights and eating so healthy. Why am I like down? Like, why am I feeling anxiety? Like, how come I'm feeling depression? And what's with this
Hmm.
emotional eating? Like, what are these things that are going on? So I thought that was kind of something we could talk about today.
Yeah. I I completely agree. I think not just with the emotional eating, but I think depressive episodes start happening a lot more in prep than people ever talk about. And I think it has a lot more to do, I think it has a lot to do with the food, of course, but I think it has a lot to do with loneliness. And I think we don't realize that sometimes. Sometimes we
Yeah.
get like not and this goes with the hormones too. I think it's like we
Like it's
have
like all coupled together. Like it's like a
exactly.
big like stew of all this stuff that
Yeah.
can cause it.
And I feel like whenever we have that, it's so hard to like, I don't want to say solve it, but try to cope with it.
Yeah.
Like, because if you're going through a prep and you're relatively healthy, but you're having these like episodes, it's like, well, what is going on to cause you to be down? And it's like, are you turning to food to like have extra snacks? Are you like really having like like these meals that are like completely off your plan? It's like, why are you doing that? And so when you have like those hormonal imbalances and your body is craving that additional sugars, it is like as soon as you give into it, your body, your hormonal response to that additional sugar is going to spike like crazy. And it's not you that can't stop. It's literally like a little monster inside you that's like, feed me more now. And it becomes like this huge internal fight with yourself. And then majority of time you cave because this isn't a fight that we know. We've never
Mhm.
done this. So it's
Right.
not like we're wired our entire lives to like have food for satisfaction, food
Hmm.
for guilt, food for parties, food for everything, meetings, like get-togethers.
Right.
So all of a sudden we're trying to not have it. We're in a deficit. We slightly cave in. Our body wants it because you don't know how to fight that off. And most likely you cave and then you start having those negative self-talks. And it's like, how do you combat that? It's very tricky, but
Yeah.
I will say for like me, I struggled with that in my off season more than I did my prep, but I will say in my prep, when I my first few preps, I was very lonely. And I've been married each prep. I've had my kid. My husband is very supportive, but like you just you start realizing like it's only you eating the rice cakes. It's only you doing this and it's you lifting the weights and you're all by yourself and you don't have anybody else and you start getting like really isolated and it can like really start wearing on you if you don't have anybody else to
Yeah.
talk to or like communicate with and it's just you. And I see this a lot like with newer athletes. I feel like more seasoned athletes kind of go to the workshops, get out there like on social media. They're more talkative. But like when you're new, you're like, I don't you're just nervous, you're scared.
Yeah.
But I will say
Or you
like
just don't have the energy because I think
yeah.
about that all the time. Like, I don't have to be lonely. Like, have so many
Mhm.
people like that I can talk to, and everybody
Yeah.
wants to go for a walk and go for a coffee. But I'm just like, I'm so tired. I don't feel like it. But
Hmm.
then I'm like, but I'm lonely. Like, I need to like be more social. So I think that's part of it too. It's like
There's like a
you think
balance.
about doing all these things that could give you like a little pep in your step, and sometimes you're just freaking tired. So
Yeah.
it's just normal. Like I think that was what I
Yeah.
really like. I don't profess to be an expert at all in this field. But I think it's just normal and it's you got to talk to friends, you've got to talk to other competitors, talk to your coach, like just open up about it. Because I think if you're just like, okay, like this is temporary and this is all like a natural process that's going on in my body, like,
Yeah.
all my hormones are shifting and, my sleep is not as good as it used to be. And, my metabolism is changing. And, but here's this goal that I want so much, like, just to kind of know, like, this too shall pass. I think
Yep.
that's important for people to realize.
Yeah, I in our check-in forms when our clients like say like their energy levels, different things. I know when we're about like 10 weeks and less for shows, I start seeing those check-ins like I'm a little weaker, I'm a little more tired, like and I explain that to them because it's like, hey, like you're not alone in this. This is something that's very
Hmm.
common. Like you just kind of got to look at like the obvious, but it's not obvious. You're pushing yourself at the gym. Your cardio's more than it has been before. Your calories are lower than they've probably ever been in your entire life if you're a first time competitor. So your body's just not used to it. So if you're a little tired, it's okay. It's normal. Like you're not alone. This is something, competitors go through. Also, if you start don't this is kind of where anxiety I think kicks in too because then you're like what if something's wrong with me, like what if I'm
Yeah.
sick, what if I'm
Yeah.
like and you start overthinking and overanalyzing. So when that happens, like our poor little stomachs, they just get so tore up and you can get
Yeah.
bloated, inflamed, it gets hard to digest your food and you start maybe getting constipated and it's just like it can turn and then it turns keeps going and then you're like why is my stomach hurting, why am I so tired, and you kind of just catapulted this thing that's actually you're just fatigued because of your nutrition levels right now.
And I
So,
think too, like sometimes you're tired, too tired to sleep, and then, depending on your age and well, and I think estrogen can take a hit no matter what age you are. But
yeah.
if your estrogen and progesterone and your sex hormones and your cortisol and your dopamine, all these things like, fluctuate and change throughout prep. And so there's, a lot of that stuff going on. But like, I think it's just normal. I forget what I was gonna say. I was gonna say something so smart again. You guys, this is bad. It was a really good point too. Oh, I know.
Oh,
Because we
there we
talked about
go.
this before. This is really terrible. But like I would say my best advice would be to avoid like putting a band-aid on it. Like certainly
Mm,
you can um do things to help get better restful sleep. Sleep is going to probably be the number one thing that's going to help you if you're
yeah.
having mood disturbances in your prep. If you feel depressed, if you have anxiety, sleep is going to help you so much. It's going to, restore your blood glucose. It's going to just help with everything, get you in that rest and digest. So you'll be able to like, digest your food properly and, feel recharged. There's a lot of things that we do in prep that are very time consuming and very taxing on our bodies. But I think being aware of stimulants too, because
Mm,
sometimes you're so
yeah.
tired that oh, let me grab a coffee. Oh, let me get an energy drink. Oh, let me take a pre-workout. Oh, let me take a fat
Yeah.
burner, which I will never take. And the reason why is because they can give you raging anxiety. So if you're already a
Mm,
little anxious and then you put something in your body like clenbuterol is one that is, on the PED side of things that a lot of people will take. And it's terrible. I've never taken it. I've always said no, because it puts you in a state of fight or flight and it makes you
mm,
super anxious. I've heard people have panic attacks on it. And I'm like, no, no, ma'am. No,
yeah.
thank you.
I
So
feel I feel
really
like
be
that's so
careful of
common.
stimulants. Yeah.
Yeah, not that I feel like it's so common for us to be like, "Oh, we're so sleepy, coffee, coffee, coffee."
Hmm.
And the same with energy drinks, of course. I feel like and I just feel like even if you're like in the journey that you're on, whether you're in an off season or like in prep, like if you're tired and sleepy and you're constantly grabbing the energy drinks and the coffee, we lose track of our caffeine intake. I
Yeah.
I had a close friend actually. I don't think I told you this. We had a close friend who's our age. Mind you, I'm 36. He had a stroke on his in at his kids' football game. I almost said soccer. His kids have were at a football game and he was there with his wife, and he had a stroke in front, like full blown in front of everybody. Kids ran off the field. It was like what you see in a movie. Ambulance came, had to shock his heart back into rhythm. It was this whole thing. He's our age. And it was because of his consumption of caffeine. He had everything we just said. Well, not everything, I shouldn't say that, but like he had like coffee, he had an espresso, he grabbed a monster, I think he grabbed another monster. Like just throughout your day, just grabbing the things that are so convenient and we're so trained to grab. Like he is in his 30s and he suffered like pretty, you know, big stroke to where he had to go stay at the hospital, get his heart shocked back to rhythm. Like it was pretty intense. So it just, I think like sometimes we need to take a step back and be like, yeah, we're kind of tired, but maybe we should just accept it. I know that sucks. I know it sucks because I quit drinking coffee. I drink hot tea. The only caffeine intake I have is like when I drink black tea.
Mhm.
So I think it's pretty minor, but like sometimes I'm tired and I don't want to go on the walk and I don't want to do certain things. But like that's kind of where we hold our own accountability. Like, no, I have these goals. I need to do it even if I'm tired. And just I think when we start holding ourselves accountable, we start trusting ourselves and believing in ourselves more and really learning that we can do this. Sometimes it just might not be as comfortable as we're used to, but it might be
Yeah.
the healthiest thing for us.
I think it's important to remember like this is hard and like there's
Hmm.
there's no like magic pill that's going to make it easier, that's going to make any part of this process easier, but I will tell you that if
Hmm.
your heart's in a good place, that you're really enjoying it and you really feel excited about it and you are really driven towards that goal, like you'd be so surprised where you find that drive and that determination and that energy. So sometimes just like resetting your mind. I mean, like physical exhaustion is like one, it's definitely something that we're not saying like, oh, just ignore it and go to the gym anyways, but I do think
Yeah.
like people's sleep routines are pretty terrible, and but as a mom, like I can kind of see how it happens. Like I used to be one of those people that was like in bed, lights out by like 9 o'clock because I had to be up at 3:45 to go to the gym because I had to do all that before everybody got on the bus and right? And I would have anxiety if like practice ran later and I'm like, it's 8:30 and I'm still in this parking lot. I have to
Oh,
be at home and sip my tea and spray my lavender stuff and be in I'm asleep by 9 o'clock. And it was really, really tough. And so now I go later, but like my daughter's practices are later. And then she
hmm,
like doesn't wind down right away and everybody's still up and there's Fortnite on and it's like 10:30. And so like I can see how that happens. And I'm like trying to wind down and it's like 11, the TV's on. So I've
yeah.
really all of a sudden started to see myself like my sleep hygiene's not the best either. So just kind of reeling it back into like, okay, we need to, as a family, wind down a little. Nobody needs to be staying up that late on a school night. Literally nobody. Like my kids get on the bus so early. I don't know about yours. Well, I know your son homeschools, but like the first set of kids leave at like
But
5 to 7 in the morning.
he wakes up at 5:30 or 6 and him and his dad go to the gym.
Yeah,
So,
so like nobody needs to be up late. So like as a family, like everybody needs to get to sleep and take your magnesium and do the things because I think when I don't sleep well, like for example, case in point, when we went to that Nashville competition and I was
mhm.
like, it's gonna be fine. I will just drive straight home.
Oh
We'll
yeah.
leave at 9 p.m. I get home at 2 in the morning and only got 3 hours of sleep. The next day I was a psycho. Like I didn't even recognize myself. I was like, like I was just a nutcase from not having enough sleep.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be like that. So you gotta really take accountability with your sleep hygiene. Honestly, you'll be way thinner for it too. I promise you.
Yeah.
You'll have
Yeah.
better digestion. You'll be easier to live with. You'll be happier. So start there. Don't start by, I'm tired. Let me get an energy supplement or another energy drink or more caffeine and jack myself up even more. Like look in the other direction, which I think like circles back around to what we talked about earlier about like determining the root cause of some of these
Yeah.
things. Because like when we talk about anxiety, okay, well, is it your stimulants? But anxiety can come just from like all the hormone changes as well. And
Hmm.
so sometimes just being comforted by the fact that like this is an expected part of this can really help you to not be like, oh my gosh, like I'm becoming a nervous wreck and dot dot dot. But there's a lot. Like prep is a lot. You're thinking about the stage. Maybe you haven't ever done this before and you're like, what if I trip? And what if my spray tan's a mess? And what happens if da 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 or whatever it might be, right? So but also like that is the fun in this. Like if you don't
Yeah.
challenge yourself and you don't take risks, like you're not like really living. So I understand you've accepted to do something kind of scary too.
I was thinking the other day about something you told me. And I have friends like this too, but we were talking about, you and I were talking about how we have people in our life that are very regimented with their schedule. They're very
Mhm.
strict. And it almost makes you not feel like you're doing enough, but in reality, you're doing all the things just on a different like time schedule, and it's just completely different because you have different responsibilities. And I was just thinking about that because I find myself like I don't want to say finding more time, but I structure myself to where I do have more time to accomplish things. And it's funny because I'll get like anxious because of it. Because now I'm like, okay, I need to do more. I need to do more. I need to do more. And I feel like when you're in prep, you like load yourself. I shouldn't like, I'm just talking in general people.
Hmm.
You, when we have extra time, we start loading ourselves like, oh, we should do more cardio. I should go on a walk. And you start telling yourself like you can't sit still.
Hmm.
And it's like I literally have clients sometimes where I'm like, I literally want you to sit on the couch for a full movie and not move. Like
Yeah.
just not move because their calendar will be like, I did Pilates, I walked for an hour, I did my lifting, I did a class, I did this. And it's just they go, 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 go. And it's great. It's weird because as a society, we're like, you're the best person ever because you're doing all this stuff when in reality, like you're like stressing the shit
It's
out of
not
your it's
maintainable. It's
it's
not.
your poor body. Like if you
Yeah.
think about like your heart pumping and everything, like nonstop all the time. And then when you're not, you're stressed about you're not. So then
Yeah.
like it's even like it's just never like stopping. So it's like finding the mental time to be like, I did enough. Like I did
Yeah.
enough.
And
I
recovery is
need,
important. Like
yep, I need to,
understanding that's important.
yeah. Like I've talked to my clients about like, hey, like, do you like journaling? Do you like drawing? Do you like, find a mental stimulant? Do you like puzzles? Do you like Sudoku? Do you like knitting, crocheting, whatever, painting? And like, find you like arts and crafts, you know, your little bedazzler. And it's like, like, but it calms you, right? It's a different type
Yeah,
of
I look forward to
it.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you're relaxing but focusing and it's just cathartic, you know? So I think about that, like, because we beat ourselves up so much, which causes so much stress and anxiety that we're not enough. But in reality, like, shit, look at all the stuff we do. Like, it's insane.
And when you look
It's
at like
insane.
weight loss, I think that there is sort of like it can be like addicting, like if you've
Hmm.
always like carried on to extra like weight and then now you're prepping for a show and there's almost like a paranoia of if I sit still, like then things are not going to move in the direction that I want to. But again, going back to like the science is completely different than fat loss. But even in fat loss, like you can't speed up the process by doing more. Like you do what
Yeah.
you need to do, you make a certain deficit, you've got to take recovery so your body can continue to push. Otherwise you'll find that you crash and burn. And usually the first thing to go is the mental status. Before the body starts to go, it's the mindset piece. And if you ignore it,
Oh, yeah.
then other things start to happen as well.
Yeah. I was thinking you said magic pill, and I'm like, oh, Ozempic is finally getting its bad rap. It is. I
Well,
keep
the
seeing
writing's
more.
on the wall with that, but
Yeah.
I
I keep
mean,
seeing more and more of the lawsuits and stuff,
but I
which
keep seeing these places pop up even more. I'm just
because
like,
they can
I
though. Like if
know.
you can make money off, it sucks. I hate like that's how our society is because we live in a capitalistic society. But if you can make money off people and their vulnerabilities, like it's
Yeah.
not going to stop unless it's illegal, right? Or banned.
You want to talk about tired? People on Ozempic are tired. Those
Ugh,
people can barely stay awake.
I
That's
know.
terrible.
It
It's
makes me
terrible.
like sad.
I
Like
know, me too.
I'm just like there's so many resources and there's so many ways to like get help, but it's just and it may be like such a like an instant quick fix and you think it's going to help you right now and you're going to feel great right now and then you have all these catastrophic problems. Like it's just
I
sad.
know.
It really
Memory
is.
loss. Like, I don't
Oh,
need to
there's
lose
people that
any
are
more
going
memory.
blind. There's
I
people our
know.
age, my age, like in their 30s that have like osteoporosis now because of bone density issues. And like people don't understand when you lose lean muscle tissue and you lose bone density, it doesn't come back overnight. Like
If at
you,
all.
yeah, if at all. And that's an immense amount of work to get that back.
Yeah.
And it's yeah. So, anyways, that's a random tangent. I was just thinking that because you said magic pill, and I'm like, there's somebody that's gonna listen to this and be like, well, Ozempic, and be like,
Yeah, just
okay.
it's a tool and it's been misused and I'm not
Hmm.
going to completely bash it. I know that it has helped
Yeah,
some people, but like common practice of how it's being delivered is more of like a let's make as much money as possible and have
yeah,
these like 30-pound weight loss in a month. Like that's not healthy
yeah.
or safe. But yeah, and I just
I,
wondered down the line, like we're seeing like there was such a huge population of people that were jumping on that bandwagon like about a year or 2 years ago. Like
mhm,
what's the longer term effect
mhm.
that we don't even know about yet?
Yeah, to your point, I've had clients that are on it and then get off it and like we get through it really well and it's helped them. Like there is I think it's such an interesting tool that is and got so abused,
It's
but
hard.
could be helpful in such a
Yeah.
micro way.
Like a
But
little
there's
bit helps.
like
Does a lot
a
help more? Like, why didn't we just stay with a little bit? Like
yeah,
a microdose of something like that that could really help somebody with food noise and appetite and all these things, but like
yeah.
you're not seeing it done that way. It's like, okay, people are taking such huge dosages of it and then they have to stay on it forever. Otherwise they'll
Hmm.
gain the weight back. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's how our
And then the
society
weight they
works.
gain back is fat. It's not going to be your bone density.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then I think that kind of piggybacks onto like just like addressing the food issues. Like,
Yeah.
if you've not dealt with that and then you just take something that those issues are still going to continue. So
Yeah.
I think that like therapy and like learning about those are important things that will be paired with that tool that could be like really helpful.
Hmm.
So but yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, we knew like when think about how much we talked about this like as a company in our staff meetings
Hmm.
like a year ago, and I was like so mad about it, and now I'm just like, nah, everybody will figure it out one day. Like,
Yeah.
not to be like I told you so, but I don't know.
Yeah. It'll, like you said, it will come full circle. I mean, there's already so many lawsuits against it. It's
Yeah,
crazy. Like I see it pop up. Like if you took whatever it is, I don't think it's Ozempic. I think it's whatever it is, but or whatever which GLP it is, and
there's
say
so
like
many
sign up
now.
here. Yeah. So it is. But like you said, food habits. Like
Mhm.
as a society, we're always constantly eating, and it's so hard when we start wanting to lose weight, start a prep, or start, a lifestyle and then do a prep, however you kind of do it. The first thing is trying to learn portion control, healthy choices, balancing your plate, following your nutrition plan, learning how to set boundaries. It's so much more mental therapy and control of what you're intaking and what you're eating and things like that than I think we realize. Because at first it's like, oh, I'll quit everything and I'll just eat chicken, broccoli, rice, and I can do that. But again, it's not sustainable. You can gain the weight back, and it can also be very daunting. Like, so when you think like, okay, let's just start these baby steps. Like, let's focus on having 7 days of following your nutrition plan. Okay, well, if you didn't do it, let's say like, I don't know, you went out to eat and had tacos. Well, like, why? Did you just decide you wanted tacos, or did your boyfriend, or did this or that? And start like picking apart things, and you start learning about yourself,
Yeah.
right? You start learning like, no, I really didn't want tacos. I really wanted my food, but like this other person really wanted tacos. Okay. Well, imagine if you told that other person, like, hey, I'll come with you to have tacos, but I can't have tacos, like, and start that type of narrative in whatever relationship,
Like
whether it's a
behavior
friend or,
change so
yeah,
that you can like mesh your goals into like
yeah.
your lifestyle, and some things will have to change, and but just kind of thinking about it too, like
Hmm.
you wouldn't believe how many people like eat things that they don't even enjoy just to like be nice or like be polite.
Or drink.
And
The drinking's a big one.
or even like I'll hear people that overeat, and they didn't even weren't even craving what they were eating. It was just like soothing some sort of an emotion. So I think just like being very present and like really exploring those things, because when you're challenged by like a poor relationship with food and you start having emotional eating, or you're cheating on your diet and you're like self-sabotaging, like there's something else going on. Like that's why it stings so much when I hear people say, well, my coach just told me to get over it, or my coach just told me to have
Hmm.
better discipline. And it's like, oh man, like obviously you want this, you've invested money and time into this, like this is your goal, like there's something there's a root to what's going on, like there's a bigger
Yeah.
issue, like it isn't because you just nobody wants to feel sick. Sometimes you're physically hungry, but sometimes there's something else going on. And I think like working with somebody that can help you with your relationship with food and different habits and behaviors, and even just like I found for me, like the way my food is spaced out helps me with, not having these cravings that are just so impossible to avoid. And that's kind
And
of
I
based on knowing when I'm busiest and when things are the most hectic that I'm more likely to kind of pick at food. So,
and I
everyone's so
love
different.
that. I want to say something with that because your food and prep is different than my food. Not our food, but our habits are
Mhm.
different. And we both like looked great. Like we both had successful preps. And I just like want to point out that, but like, because there's so many times where, you compare to others and it starts getting in your head really bad too. And I loved that you and I were like, you would eat like your last meal, I think at 7 o'clock, right?
Hmm.
6, 7. And I
Yeah.
would like never. My last meal is at nine
Yeah, because
o'clock.
you have all these meals and I don't do it that way.
And
I
I
did
do. Yeah.
I don't.
I
I
like
have
to
like
break
I
it up.
don't. I have 3 or 4 meals, that's it. And
Yeah.
I get to eat a lot of food at one time and it's
Yep.
wonderful.
And
And I
I
don't have to
hate
spend all
that.
day eating because it's such a tease to have like just a little snack. Like I just don't like it. So I've
See, for
always
me,
done
it
it
was
that
always,
way.
yeah.
Yeah,
And,
I
and
like
that's
it.
what's funny is I like if I do a lot of volume and I don't, the opposite. Like if I do a lot of volume and I don't get to eat for a while, it just like goes right through me and I will like, I like the eating every like ding, ding, ding,
I
ding.
don't. I feel like
But
all I'm doing is eating and then but I'm never full and it's annoying.
oh, see, I get full from it. See, but that's why we're different.
Yeah.
Like you're 5'1" and I'm 5'7". Like we're just different.
Yeah.
So like when you start like don't compare yourself to other people's preps or anything because they're always going to be different, no matter your level of success or anything. Like
Hmm.
it's always like your progress and your process. So like always remember that too. I always like to
Hmm.
share that because like again, I have a lot of new clients. I always see a lot of these things, talk about these new things, and it's like, no, this is okay. It's okay
Yeah.
to do this. It's
Everyone's
okay
different.
not to do this. Yeah.
And what you have to find what works for you. So I
Yes.
think like, certainly don't be like, oh, it's been a day and I couldn't stick to my diet, so I need to change it. But like if something's repeatedly happening and there's something kind of going on, that's a conversation that you should have. And there's ways to go around it. Like some people find that pushing out their first meal to later in the day really helps them, especially if they
Yeah.
work out later. Um, or like where you put your dietary fats. Like don't eat them all in the morning. Like they are not going to be good to be just spent in the morning. You need them throughout the day to like
Yep.
stabilize your blood sugar so that you can stay satiated. Like those are like little tricks that like an expert can help you with.
Yep.
And just little things like that will make it so that your diet is manageable. Again, nothing makes anything any easier, but like sometimes like these diets are set up for failure when I look at them like no wonder you couldn't stick to that. So that's like part of it too. But I think people can really beat themselves up about emotional eating and sometimes they're shamed about it and they don't talk to others, they don't talk to their coach, and then their coach is like, well, I don't have any choice but to like raise your cardio and reduce your food, except if you're emotionally eating and then I take your diet down even more because I didn't know that that was the problem, then all I'm doing is creating a greater trigger for you because now
Hmm.
I'm taking more food away. So it's better for me to know what's going on so we can work together and work through it and find some solutions so that you can stick to what I gave you. And then maybe I don't have to like reduce your food. Maybe if you just stick to what I gave you, because now we've talked about some solutions, we've moved things around a little bit to make it more doable, we've added some more volume, then now you can stick to it and we can lose body fat. We don't have to reduce it. So I
Yeah.
think that it's important to talk to your coach. And if your coach isn't listening, find a new coach. It's like
Exactly.
if your coach doesn't get it just tells you to get over it, then there's a problem.
Yeah. Well, we are at almost at our hour mark.
We are.
So I know. I
How
hope
does
you
this
guys
happen?
really enjoyed. I know it blinks and it goes by. I hope you guys enjoyed our, girly talk kind of about this topic. And this topic is actually like, I feel like we could always talk about this topic because it's meaningful to both of us because we see shitty coaches, we see shitty diets. We also speak to a lot of women that have had like bad experiences like I've had, and it is scarring and we remember it. So if you ever need somebody to talk to, have questions, looking for a new coach, or just anything that you need in the sport or when it comes to food health, always reach out to either one of us. Always in Instagram, anything that you watch us on our podcast and then our social media, always like and subscribe and share. Please share because
It
we're always
helps
here to
us a
help.
lot. Yeah.
It helps us
And
and
we
then it
want to
helps
reach other
anybody.
people and
Hmm.
be able to have a place for people to come to when they need to hear some prep rants and
Yeah.
inspiring stories. So we like
Yeah.
really appreciate when you guys share our stuff. So
Yeah, we love helping everybody, but like the mamas out there who are like putting in the work and their prep and just like wanting to pull their hair out because it's about to be
yeah,
show
girl, we
season and
see
they're
you.
like,
We
I know,
see you.
we do. You're like 5 weeks out and you're like, like we're here for you, ladies.
For
We
sure.
are. So, all right, guys, thank you for listening.
Bye. See
Bye.
you next time.